I speak to you not as a theorist, but as one who has lived the very life of struggle that many of you now face. It is a great pleasure to tell how I served my apprenticeship, rising from a bobbin boy earning $1.20 a week to a position where millions passed through my hands. I have known the wolf of poverty at the door, and I tell you now, as I told myself then, there is no enemy more treacherous than the surrender of one's own will to the phantoms of the mind. Imagine a life where the specter of hesitation is erased, not because the world has become easier, but because you have become a master of your own character. Waking each day with a spirit of invincible determination to rise, you find that the doors of opportunity open not to those who wait for a feeling of bravery, but to those who perform their duty with a genius for the future partner. You see, the good old times were not truly good. They were days of universal squalor, where even the master lived little better than the servant. Today, the law of competition and the concentration of business in the hands of the few are the very foundations upon which civilization rests. This path requires a rare talent for organization and a mind disciplined against the seductive temptations of the world. Fear, that ancient whisper of caution, is natural, yet it is never meant to be your counselor. It only wins when you obey it as if it were a command. Every time you shrink, you trade the precious heritage of poverty, that bracing school which produces the world's leaders, for a suffocating safety that leads only to decay. We are here to expose the phantoms of doubt for what they truly are, illusions that thrive in the absence of work. We shall bury them with the truth of patient, unremitting attention to affairs, and a purpose far greater than the vanity of the parent or the sordid atmosphere surrounding business. In the moments that follow, you will learn to stop running from the unfamiliar and start aiming high, for I would not give a fig for the young man who does not already see himself at the top of an important firm. You will learn to stand tall even when the responsibility of the engine causes your heart to race, acting with a mind so sharp that there is no room left for the insane thirst of speculation or the Charybdis of intemperance. Let us be plain. Your greatest foe is not the risk of the marketplace, but the inaction of a mind that waits to feel ready. The immortals who were not born to die did not wait for the clouds to part. They split the rails and light the fires of the schoolhouse while it was still dark outside. They understood that the only way to drive the wolf from the door is through honest manual labor and the direct reward of toil. Courage is not the absence of the terrible task, but the point of honor that refuses to whine or give up. The ones who change industries and make history walk forward anyway, for they know that to stand still is impossible. One must either go forward or fall behind. You do not need to be fearless. You simply need to stop giving authority to a shadow that has earned none. The more you move through the stormy sea of business, the smaller the waves of doubt appear. Every time you act despite the trembling, you teach your spirit that the obstacle is merely a signal that this matters. It is a law of our nature that repetition rewires reality. By facing your duties head-on, you become a man whom fear cannot inhabit, for you have trained your mind to act before the hesitation can settle into a permanent frost. So, the next time the spirit of doubt rises in your chest, remember this: you do not require a life with less resistance, you require more movement. Do not overanalyze, do not parley with your weaknesses, and do not negotiate with your own shadow. Just move, for the spirit of hesitation hates momentum, and the very moment you commit yourself to the work, the fear begins to wither away. Wealth and character are not built in the absence of difficulty, but in the mastery of it. When I was a boy in Allegheny with the responsibility of a family upon my young shoulders, I did not have the luxury of waiting for the feeling of courage. I had to perform. And in that performance, I discovered that the world makes way for the man who knows where he is going and refuses to be turned aside by a ghost. Your life will be measured not by the comforts you secured, but by the battles you won against your own lower nature. Therefore, choose movement over stillness, for movement is the first law of the empire of business. Do not be deceived. Fear is a master storyteller, but it is a chronic and habitual liar. It crafts fables so believable, so emotionally convincing, that they appear to the uninitiated as solid truth. But here is the brutal fact from the desk of experience. The most dangerous lies fear tells are the ones it whispers about your own character. It tells you that you are not ready, that you lack the natural genius of the masters, that you are not smart enough or worthy enough to sit among the captains of industry. It warns that if you attempt to aim high, you will only provide a spectacle of failure for the world to mock, that if you speak your truth, you will be met with the laughter of your peers. Because fear often borrows the very tone of your own internal monologue, you accept these shadows as reality. You fail to realize that this is merely a story you have rehearsed so often it has become familiar, and in the mind of the undisciplined, the familiar is often mistaken for the true. Fear thrives in the fertile soil of the unemployed imagination. It takes a single moment of uncertainty and builds a panoramic tragedy around it. You do not merely worry about a difficult board meeting, you envision the complete collapse of your credit and the shaming of your name. You do not merely hesitate to suggest a new method of manufacture, you see yourself cast out publicly and permanently from the respect of your fellow men. This is how fear wins its victories, through the vicious cycle of repetition. The more you rehearse the worst-case scenario in the laboratory of your mind, the more your very physical frame believes the threat is at hand. Your heart races, your breath grows shallow, and your muscles tense as if the wolf were already at the door. Suddenly you are no longer living in the present, the only place where honest work can be done, but are imprisoned in a future of your own dark invention. In such a state, even the smallest step toward your clear-cut purpose feels like an impossibility. But here is the great breakthrough of the mental life. If fear is built by repetition, then confidence is forged in the same furnace. If fear is a story, you possess the divine right to tell a better one. You can visualize a future where you speak and are heard with gravity, where you leap into the unknown and find the solid ground of divine providence beneath your feet, where you meet failure yet rise with a lesson learned that is worth more than the gold you lost. The mind, you must understand, is a battlefield, and it struggleth to distinguish between a vivid imagination and a lived memory. If you can spend your hours visualizing defeat, you can just as easily spend them rehearsing domination. This is where the battle for your empire of business is truly won or lost, not in the stock exchange or the furnace room, but in the inner chamber of the soul. The moment you stop accepting the script written by your anxieties and start rewiring your reality with thoughts of success and service, you take back the scepter of control. You do not have to feel brave to act with the spirit of a conqueror. You do not have to feel certain to move your capital or your person forward. You simply have to stop giving the microphone of your mind to the voice of doubt. That voice is powerful, yes, but it is rarely a teller of truth. Its biggest lie is that fear is your limit. It is not. It is your signal. It is the flag that announces you are standing at the very frontier of your growth. What happens next, whether you retreat into the mediocrity of the masses or press on to the heights of the immortals, is entirely a matter of your own will and determination. Turn your back on the phantom and look toward the light of your definite major aim. Do not be misled by the modern cry for ease. I tell you that fear grows in the dark, in silence, and in the shameful avoidance of one's duty.
The more you run from the specter of responsibility, the larger and more grotesque its shadow becomes on the wall. The more you try to outthink the risks of the market through endless deliberation, the louder the voice of hesitation becomes. You must understand that fear does not shrink with the passing of time or the accumulation of theory. It shrinks only with exposure. This is where the vast majority of men, the average who never rise above the clerk's desk, commit their most fatal error. They wait for courage to arrive as a guest before they take the leap. They wait for the tremors to fade before they commit their capital or their person to the first step. But courage, as I have seen it in the pioneers of the rail and the masters of the forge, does not come before action, it comes because of action. Imagine, if you will, a young man standing at the edge of a freezing pool. He may dip his toe in, walk away, return on the morrow, and overthink the sensation until his mind is a clutter of dread, and yet he remains cold just looking at the water. Or he can take the invincible leap, shock his system, and allow his frame to adapt. In a few seconds, he is no longer afraid. Why? Because he has experienced what his unemployed imagination had monstrously exaggerated. That is exposure. It is not about being fearless, for only a fool is without caution. It is about being willing. You must be willing to feel the chill of the unknown and still step forward. You must be willing to look uncertainty in the eye and say, "You are not the end of my journey. You are the very beginning of my progress." This is how you kill fear, not with avoidance, but by leaning into the very things that terrify the timid. You must practice the uncomfortable until it becomes your natural element. You must make the difficult familiar, and as it becomes familiar, it loses its power to paralyze your will. I say to you, speak even when your voice trembles with the weight of the responsibility of the engine. Show up at the office even when your hands shake with the gravity of the decision. Launch your enterprise even if it is imperfect in the eyes of the theorists, for the man who waits for perfection never leaves the starting line. Ask the hard question of your superiors, even if you fear the answer. That is the true training ground of the character. Repetition rewires reality. The first time you face the board of directors, it may be terrifying. The second time, it is merely uncomfortable. By the 10th time, it is routine. And by the 100th time, it is freedom. The men you admire, the great speakers, the captains of industry, the leaders of the nation, they did not start their careers as brave men. They started as scared boys. The only difference is that they refused to remain in that state of permanent shrinking. They built a tolerance to discomfort. They did not run from the storm of competition. They stepped into it again and again until the thunder of the world could no longer shake their inner poise. The truth is, the fear may never fully leave the human breast. It is part of our precious heritage. But you can reach a state where you stop flinching when it speaks. You stop shrinking when it rises, because you have faced it enough times to know it is just a sound. It is a signal, a data point, but it does not have the final word. You do. The only way out of the valley of doubt is straight through the center of it, through the trembling, through the possibility of failure, through the thicket of doubt. You walk into the storm not because you are unafraid, but because you know that on the other side of that fear holds the empire of business and the life you have not yet lived. And I tell you, as one who has seen both sides, that life is a price worth paying. Give me the young man who is bound to be rich in character and spirit, and I will show you a man who uses his fear as the very fuel for his ascent to the heights.
If you truly desire to kill fear at its very root, you must go to its source, the inner chamber of your own mind. Fear does not originate in the fluctuations of the market or the critiques of the press. It starts in the silent, invisible stories you repeat to yourself in the quiet hours of the night. It thrives on tales of inadequacy, of impending ruin, and of the myriad things that might go wrong. These stories, left to play on a loop, shape your reality until you are no longer a master of your destiny, but a slave to your anxieties. Here is the truth I have learned from a lifetime of building. If you do not train your thoughts, they will surely train you. Left unchecked, the mind becomes a battlefield where the phantom of fear always wins. But you are not here to be a subject of such a tyrant. You are here to reclaim your mind, to take back the pen from the hand of doubt, and to write a new script for your life. It begins with this powerful realization. You are not your thoughts. You are the architect who chooses which thoughts shall be allowed to dwell within. When fear whispers, "You are not ready for this responsibility," do not bow. Question it. Ask, "Who says so?" When it tells you that failure is certain, reply with the calm of a philosopher. "Perhaps, but even in failure, I shall find the seed of a greater benefit." You must disrupt the pattern of hesitation. Every thought is a seed, and what you water with your attention will inevitably grow. If you water the weeds of fear, you will harvest a life of shrinking and mediocrity. But if you water the seeds of courage, if you flood your mind with intentional, disciplined thoughts of service and success, then boldness becomes your default state. This is not the fluff of the dreamer. It is the intentional mental conditioning of the man of affairs. Just as the athlete trains his frame and the ironmaster monitors his furnace, you must train your mind with affirmations that declare your worth and visualizations that lock your gaze upon the attainment of your goal. Speak power into your own soul. Tell yourself, "I am calm under the pressure of the engine. I face the storm and move forward anyway." These are not mere words, they are commands to the subconscious. Your mind learns by watching your conduct. When you perform a bold act despite your nerves, your brain registers a new identity. We are the kind of people who do hard things. That is how fear loses its grip. You are not weak for feeling the tremor, but you stay weak if you let it lead. Guard your thoughts like a vault. Interrupt the lies of the shadow and install the truth of the conqueror. If you have found value in these lessons from a life of struggle and success, I invite you to join our circle of pioneers. Pray, like this video, and subscribe to this channel so that we may continue to build this empire of character together. By doing so, you ensure that these principles of industry and courage reach the young men and women who need them most. What is the single most courageous action you have taken this week? Tell me in the comments below, for as we share our victories, we strengthen the resolve of the whole. Your journey toward a fearless life is just beginning. Let us walk the path together. Ready yourself, for in our next meeting, we shall discuss the gospel of wealth and the true responsibility of success. Stand tall, and remember, you always have a choice. Train your mind or be trained by fear. The choice is yours.
My friends, if these lessons have stirred the fire within your own breast, I invite you to join our fellowship of industry and character. Subscribe to this channel to ensure you do not miss our future discourses on the virtues of success. There are many more lessons to be shared and many more maps to be drawn for the journey ahead. Watch our other videos to further fortify your mind and refine your spirit. The work of building a life of consequence is never finished. Let us continue this great labor together.